There is always room for conflicts and controversies in our studies of the Philippine history. Why there are spaces for conflicts and controversies? Primarily because, number one, historians could be subjective in their interpretations. So their interpretations might be biased in their educational background, they might be biased in their personal interpretation of the artifacts. Of course, as we have understood that artifacts could not speak for themselves. So those who interpreted the artifacts or a particular historical topic might be biased in their interpretation. Number one, another thing is that there are also multi-perspectives in history. There are a lot of perspectives when we study history. That is why there will always be room for conflicts. There will always be spaces for controversies in the studies of history. And some historians would call this as one past but many histories. Of course, there are many histories because there could be many interpretations based on the perspectives of the historians. So for today's vlog, we are going to talk about one particular topic that is very interesting in the spaces for conflicts and controversies in the Philippine history. Sa vlog na ito, pag-usapan natin yung the first Catholic Mass that happened in the Philippines. So this is now the conflict or controversies. Was it in Limasawa or in Masao Island in Butuan? That is the question na pag-usapan natin. That is the controversy na ating i-discuss sa video ito. But if you are still new to my channel, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and ring the bell down there para ma-updated ka sa lahat ng videos na aking i-upload. So this is Sir June, your philosophy and social science teacher, and welcome to my channel. Taong 1998, the National Historical Institute declared that Limasawa Island was the place in which the first Catholic Mass happened in the Philippines. However, there were some claims that Butuan was also the place of the first Catholic Mass, and it happened somewhere in Masao Island in Butuan. The first Catholic Mass happened on March 31, 1521. That is why this coming 1521, the Roman Catholic Church will celebrate its 500 years. 500 years dito sa Pilipinas. Now, it was officiated, or the first Mass was presided by Father Pedro Valderrama, of course a friar who was together with Magellan during their navigation. Ngayon, there are actually two sources that would serve as evidences as to where, when, and how did this Catholic Mass transpired in the Philippines. So the first account was coming from Francisco Albo, and he was a pilot in one of Magellan's ship, and that was the Trinidad. And Francisco Albo was one also of these survivors. He was one of the 18 survivors who accompanied Sebastian del Cano in going back to Spain. And of course, the second account was coming from Antonio Pigafetta, who was an Italian nobleman, a cartographer and geographer who was sent particularly by the King of Spain together with Magellan to document their voyage to the Eastern Islands. Ngayon, tingnan natin itong account ni Francisco Albo, and it was found in one of the citations of Miguel A. Bernard in his book Butuan or Limasawa, the site of the first Mass in the Philippines, a re-examination of the evidence, and it was published in the year 1981. According to Francisco Albo, on March 16, 1521, as they sailed in the westerly course from Ladrones or Marianas Island, they saw land towards the northwest, but owing to many shallow places, they did not approach it. They found later that its name was Yunagan. They went instead that same day southwards to another small island named Suluan, and this was Butuan, and there they anchored. There they saw some canoes, but these fled at the Spaniards' approach. This island was at 9 and 2/3 degree north latitude. Departing from those two islands, they sailed westward to an uninhabited island of Gada, where they took in a supply of wood and water. The sea around that island was free from shallows. Albo does not give the latitude of this island, but Pigafetta's testimony seems to be the Aguada or the Humonhon at 10 degrees north latitude. From that island, they sailed westwards towards a large island named Selanay. This was Leyte, that was inhabited and was known to have gold. So Selanay is called as Ceylon or Leyte. Sailing southwards along the coast of that large island of Selanay or Leyte, they turned southwest to a small island called Masava. That island is also at a latitude of 9 and 2/3 degrees north. The people of that island of Mazava were very good. There the Spaniards planted a cross upon a mountain top, and from there they were shown 3 islands to the west and southwest, where they were told there was much gold. They showed us how the gold was gathered, which came in small pieces like peas and lentils. From Mazava, they sailed northwards towards Selanay. Ngayon, we have to note that Albo did not mention about the first mass. He mentioned about the planting of the cross on the top of the hill. Now, he did not also mention Limasawa. He neither mentioned about Masao in Butuan. So, what is this and what does it mean? However, based on the analysis of the latitude, and the location of the description, Albo's account would fit to the location of Limasawa Island, and that was the southern tip of Leyte. Doon. So that's why Albo's account would actually tell us that it was there in Limasawa, the southern tip of Leyte. Ngayon, puntahan naman natin yung testimony of Antonio Pigafetta in this site of the first mass. According to Pigafetta, Saturday, March 16, 1521, Magellan's expedition sighted a highland named Zamal, which was some 300 leagues westward of Ladrones or Marianas Islands. On Sunday, March 17, the following day, after sighting Zamal Island, they landed on another island which was uninhabited and which lay to the right of the above-mentioned island of Zamal. To the right here would mean on their starboard going south or southwest. There they set up 2 tents for the sick members of the crew and had a sow killed for them. The name of this island was Humuno, or we call now as Humonhon. This island was located at 10 degrees north latitude. On that same day, March 17, Sunday, Magellan named the entire archipelago the Islands of St. Lazarus. The reason being that it was Sunday in the Lenten season when the Gospel assigned for the Mass and the liturgical office was the 11th chapter of St. John, which tells of the raising of Lazarus from the dead. On Monday, March 18, in the afternoon of their second day on that island, they saw a boat coming towards them with 9 men in it. An exchange of gifts was effected. Magellan asked for food supplies and the men went away, promising to bring rice and other supplies in 4 days. There were 2 springs of water in that island of Humonhon. Also, they saw there some indications that there was gold in these islands. Consequently, Magellan renamed the island and called it the watering place of good omen, or in their language, Aguada la di Bueni Señale. On Friday, March 22, at noon, the natives returned. This time, they were in 2 boats and they brought food supplies. Magellan's expedition stayed 8 days at Humonhon, from Sunday on March 17 to the Monday of the following week on March 25. Base sa ating binabasa, dito natin makikita that the Filipinos, the natives, welcomed the Europeans. They were offered with food. and other supplies. And dito rin natin makikita yung amazement ng mga Europeans about the presence of gold in the Philippine Islands. So, kaya nga nasabi nila, this is the watering place of good signs kasi nakita nila yung signs of gold. And alam naman natin na ito yung hinahanap ng mga Europeans, right? Now, on March 25th, Monday, in the afternoon, Magellan and his men left the island of Homonhon and they sailed towards southwest. That was between the four islands named Sinalo, Huinangahan, Ibuson, and Albarel. These were probably as the misspellings of some of the places such as Leyte, itong Sinalo, Silanay, the Silon, this is Leyte. Now they sailed towards the southern tip of, or the southwest of Leyte. They left Homonhon sailing westwards towards Leyte, then followed the Leyte coast southward, passing between the island of Hibusun on their port side and Hinuangan Bay on their starboard, and then continued southward, then turning westward to Masawa. They landed and anchored in the island of Masawa on March 28, that was Thursday, and in the morning of Holy Thursday, they reached in this island, of course, and this was 25 leagues from the Aguada, and this is called the Masawa Island, and they remained 7 days in this Masawa Island. Ngayon, base sa ating binabasa, dito natin makikita yung conflicting kasi base sa account ni Albo, he mentioned about Masava, di ba? While Antonio Pigafetta mentioned the name as Masawa. No, so this is now the conflicting point of view. After staying for 7 days in Masawa Island, and doon naganap yung first mass, of course, Masawa, they left Masawa and they were guided by the king of Masawa. So they went to Cebu or Subu, and you know what happened there. It was in Cebu that Magellan was killed. Now, it must be noted that Pigafetta's account gave more details on the 7-day activity in the Masawa Island. And Pigafetta mentions about how did it happen, how the first match happened, when did it happen, where did it happen. So basically, they stayed in Masawa Island during the Holy Week. Holy Week kasi ito, and for your information sa mga non-Catholics dyan, Holy Week is a significant event of the Catholic faith. It is a memorable event of the Paschal mystery of Christ, in which this is the time of Jueves Santo, Viernes Santo, Good Friday, then Holy Saturday, then of course Easter Sunday. Now, it happened that on March 31, 1521, it was the Easter Sunday. And this is a huge celebration kasi para sa mga Catholics, this was the time that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. So this event was recorded in history as the first Christian ritual that happened in the Philippine Islands. This was the first Catholic Mass that happened in the Eastern Islands. And we have to note that this is momentous sa mga Catholics. This signifies the birth of Christianity in the Philippines. This signifies the birth of Catholicism in our country. According to Pigafetta, Sunday, March 31, early in the morning of Sunday, the last of March and Easter Day, Magellan sent the priest ashore with some men to prepare for the Mass. Later in the morning, Magellan landed with some 50 men, and the Mass was celebrated, after which a cross was venerated. Magellan and the Spaniards returned to the ship for the noonday meal, but in the afternoon, they returned ashore to plant the cross on the summit of the highest hill. In attendance both at the Mass and the planting of the cross were the King of Masawa and the King of Butuan. Ngayon, ito yung mga arguments of those people, historians, who believe that the first Catholic Mass happened in Butuan, somewhere in Masao Island. So, Masao Island in Butuan. Their arguments was actually based on the idea that the king of Masawa, that was Raha Siago, was the brother of Raha Kulambu, and Raha Kulambu was the king of Caragua and Butuan. So somehow may point the similarity. And of course, the Europeans, Pigafetta himself, mentioned about the abundance of gold, the presence of gold in the place. And we know that Butuan has a lot of gold. Butuan has a lot of itong mga sources of gold. In fact, if you go to the National Museum of Butuan, there are a lot of presence of these artifacts of gold. That speaks something about their history, the richness of their history. However, according to a Jesuit priest, Miguel A. Bernard, in his work Butuan or Limasawa, the site of the first Mass in the Philippines, a re-examination of evidence in 1981, he lays down the argument that in Pigafetta's account, a crucial aspect of Butuan was not mentioned, that is the river. Butuan is a riverine settlement situated on the Agusan River. The beach of Masao is in the delta of that said river. It is a curious omission in the account of the river, which makes part of a distinct characteristics of Butuan's geography that seem to be important to be missed. It must also be pointed out that later on, after Magellan's death, the survivors of his expedition went to Mindanao, and seemingly they went to Butuan. And in fact, it was the king of Butuan. It was the king of Butuan who gave them supplies, who gave them food, so that they can survive in their navigation in going back to Spain. Now, in this instance, Pigafetta mentioned about the tip of the river. And this is in Butuan. Kaya lang, it is important to notice also na it happened already after the first Mass, and it happened already after the Battle of Mactan. So, ang tanong, saan nga ba talaga ito nangyari? As of now, on July 15, 2020, the National Historical Commission of the Philippines Board of Commissioners signed a resolution number 2 adopting or affirming that the site of the first Mass happened in Limasawa. This was still based on the argument that those pro-Butuan, or those historians who proved that the first Mass happened in Butuan, lack the sufficient evidence that indeed it happened in Butuan. And so, there was no amendment of the proclamation of the National Historical Institute that I mentioned earlier. And as of now, yung decision ng National Historical Commission of the Philippines is still Limasawa, until historians would prove that there is enough evidence that indeed the first Catholic Mass happened in Masao Island, somewhere in Butuan. That is why, until now, there is still room for research in the issue. There is still room for a lot of questions as to where this Catholic Mass really happened. And I think this is our task as historians. This is our task as social science students, as history lovers. This is our task to make research about this particular issue, to prove our certain claim, to have sufficient evidence to our certain claim. Ngunit, para sa ating mga Pilipino, whether it happened in Masao Island in Butuan or somewhere in Limasawa Island in Leyte, for me, as a Catholic, as a Christian, it does not matter anymore. It does not matter. But if there are evidences, I think this is good for historical discussion, no? But for me, as of now, what matters is that because of this first Mass, because of this particular event in history, then we had Christianity, we had Catholicism, we had this faith as a Christian. And because of this event, we started, or the Filipinos started to know Jesus Christ. And because of this event, the Filipinos started to hear the message of Christianity, the message of Jesus Christ, the message of the gospel. And this is more significant than the event itself. The significance is the impact. The significance of this particular event is the aftermath. And this is now the Christianity that we have lived in our lives from that moment and until in our time today. This is Sir John Michael Antony, your philosophy and social science teacher, and I hope that you have learned something from our discussion today. God bless you.